Hello fellow Scratchers. Have your levels been feeling rather bereft of life? Well, it's time to liven things up as we add adorable yet temptingly squishable enemies into our platformer. I'm Griffpatch and welcome back to part 8 of our series on creating a tiled scrolling platformer in Scratch. Before diving into the code, for those at the cutting edge following the tutorial as I'm sharing it, you may not have enemy sprites and costumes in your project. Well, do not fear. I have updated my starter project on my Griffpatch tutor account with the new sprite and costumes, and there is of course a link to it under the video. If I jump there now, you can see the new enemy sprite here contains a whole raft of exciting Mario enemy costumes. So drag the whole sprite into your backpack, and then we are ready to begin. So, open your project from where we left off in episode 7, and drag the enemy sprite out of the backpack into the sprite panel. I'm going to reorder it to be the third sprite. Now, if you're creating the sprite yourself, then that's fine too. It only contains costumes after all. In this episode, we are going to create the classic Mario enemy, Goomba. He'll need to be able to fall and move around, colliding with the tiled level. Click into the Mario sprite. We put a lot of time into making these scripts, and we certainly don't want to have to do it all over again for Goomba. Luckily, many of our scripts are perfectly reusable. For those of you lucky enough to have my Scratch browser extension installed, Scratch DevTools, you can use the find bar to locate the scripts. There's a link under the video. But otherwise, let's find them by hand. Firstly, we want the define getTileXY script. This is key to detecting collisions, so drag it carefully until your mouse cursor is directly over the enemy sprite and drop it there. Next, find the define fix collisions at point script. We'll drag that over too, being careful to let go directly over the enemy sprite. It can be quite tricky to see behind these huge scripts. Then we want the define fix collisions in direction script. Man, I'm glad we can reuse all these. And lastly, we want the define move sprite X script. And the define move sprite Y script. Awesome. That covers a lot of the required sprite movement. So let's click back into the enemy sprite and observe the dog's dinner Scratch has made of laying out our copied scripts. Not the best. So right-click the scripting area and clean up the blocks. There, at least now they're readable. Let's just check they're all here. We have the get tile at XY, fix collisions at point, fix collision in direction, and move sprite X and move sprite Y. That's all of them. Great. And look, it's worth noting that Scratch has kindly recreated all the variables that were used by these scripts, specific to Mario. That's going to be very handy. So, we can get right down to business. We intend to have many enemies on a level, all at the same time. So, we of course will be using clones. We therefore have to set things up with that in mind. When green flag clicked, set size to 200, as we have been doing throughout, and then hide this sprite. This original sprite will be a dummy sprite, from which all our other clones will be made. Now, to identify this dummy sprite, and what sort of enemy each other clone will be, make a new variable named type for this sprite only, and set it to the empty value. This indicates that this is the dummy enemy. We'll also set both speed X and speed Y to 0. Now looking ahead, to position Goomba on the screen, we'll need a new custom block named Paint Sprite, run without screen refresh. We code this in the usual way by first switching the costume to big to allow it to move off screen. Position the sprite using the goToXY of X minus camera X and Y minus camera Y. Then we'll switch the costume to the correct costume, which we don't yet know. So make a new variable named costume to hold the costume name or number. Then we can switch costume to that variable. To trigger this paint sprite, use a WhenIReceive position tiles. But to rule out the dummy sprite, check if type is greater than the empty value. Only then do we paint the sprite. Oh man, this is exciting. I really want to test things, but we haven't yet cloned any Goombas. Now obviously, we are going to want to work towards adding the Goombas through the level editor, but we are better off starting simple. we'll add a when G key pressed. G is obviously for Goomba. And then, if type equals the empty value, then create a clone of myself. This is an important if condition, because we only want the dummy enemy sprite to spawn the new clones. This G key press will always trigger for each clone on the enemy sprite too, and they would be quite happy to create their own clones. This leads to the common bug where clones create new clones and wow do they quickly multiply out of control. This if will stop all of that. So, when I start as a clone, set the clone's type to Goomba. Also set the costume to 2. This is Goomba's first costume number. Then set width and height to 14, so that the collision scripts we copied over from Mario know how large Goomba should be. For now, we'll position this new Goomba right at the same location as Mario. Simply set X to the X of Mario. The of block is in the sensing category. Do make sure not to use X position of Mario, but just the plain X of Mario instead. We do the same for the Y variable. And bring in a point in direction of Mario, so that Goomba faces the same way as us. Finish the clone off by using the paint sprite to set its position and costume, and then use a show block. Oh, thank goodness, the moment has arrived. We can run the project. Without waiting, let's smash that G key to clone a Goomba. And yay, there he is, right on cue. Let's drop a few more. This is fun. Notice how the Goombas can be happily scrolled off screen, and when we return, they are waiting for us, exactly where we left them. It's neat. At least, it's neat if you like legions of floating Goombas. Personally, I favour my Goombas to be a little more lively. Perhaps we should proceed to get them to obey the law of gravity. Now, before we can bring movement to our enemies, our main Mario game loop is in need of a minor upgrade. Click into the Mario sprite and find the Define Game Loop script. Now you're going to like this. A number of people have asked how come my Scratch has some extra features that you don't see in regular Scratch. Well, that's because I have the Scratch add-ons and my Scratch DevTools extension installed. And here's an option I added just 2 days ago that lets me add extra space around a script that I'm about to work on. However, just to be clear, you do not need these tools to follow or complete any of my tutorials. Okay. So we are going to create 2 new broadcast events. The first we'll name Move Enemy, and the second Move Player After Enemy. Drop these in after the broadcast Move Player, and before Position Tiles. The order of these broadcasts is crucial for our program to run correctly. This lets us move the player, then move all the enemies, and then perform more player movements and checks, all in the same frame of our gameplay, but across multiple sprites. This was a real game changer when I learnt this trick. We will use it now to split off the camera movement and final sprite positioning of the player and place it under the new when I receive new player after enemy like this. Enemies can now safely run their scripts before the level is scrolled, just as the player already does. This will help no end when we want to do sprite collisions later on. I'll just test that things are still working after those game loop changes. Good. Let's switch back to the enemy sprite now, and we'll look at making Goomba fall to the ground. Find some free space, and then drop in a new When I Receive Move Enemy event receiver. This sprite may or may not be a Goomba, so let's check. If type equals Goomba. Now, make a new custom block naming it Tick Goomba, run without screen refresh. And drop the new block in the if, followed by a stop this script. So, gravity. We know what to do there. Change speed y by -1. And then drop in our very own Move Sprite Y block. We can do that? You betcha we can. Run the project and press G. Oh wow, did you see what I saw? I think you might have missed it. Hold on, let me get more height. Oh yeah, these Goombas are hugging the floor like little floor-hugging floor huggers. That is most satisfying to see, and a testament to reusable code. So, can Goomba Walking be as simple? We want those little critters to have a bit of acceleration to their walk. We'll assume that they are facing the direction they want to walk in, so using an if-else, Check if direction is greater than 0, facing right. If Goomba's speed, x, is less than 1, 1 will be his top speed. Yep, Goomba is dog slow, but they're cool, don't worry. Then we change speed x by 0.1. Otherwise, they must be facing left. So if speed x is greater than -1, -1, then change speed x by -0.1. Nice. Now bring in our move sprite x block to handle the movement and tile collisions for us. Oh yes, we can run the project again, pressing G to drop a Goomba, and off he toddles. If I drop another one while facing left, he goes off that way too. So what if I drop one by a wall? Well, he stops. That's not quite right. But he does look good falling off a cliff. I like that. Hold on a sec, I just noticed my Mario sprite is behind the Goomba sprite. We can fix that at any time by going back into the project editor and dragging Mario on the stage. Good. So, let's ensure that Goomba does not get stuck while walking into walls. Instead, we want him to change direction. Click back into the enemy sprite and locate the Define Move Sprite X. We're going to have to make a minor change to this copied script specific to the enemy sprite. This is where we have detected a collision, where a solid is greater than 0. We can simply add a set turn clockwise by 180 after setting the speed x to 0. This will turn Goomba right around. Testing this simple change, I'll run over here and spawn a Goomba, expecting them to now turn around at the wall. Yep, perfect. And look, all his friends want to join in the fun too. I'm not surprised. Next up, we will work on Goomba's walking animation. Find the Define Tick Goomba script and make a new variable named frame for this sprite only. After the Goomba moving code, we change frame by 0.25. That will mean it takes 4 frames to change costume. Goomba only has 2 frames in his walk cycle. Set the costume variable to 2. Goomba's first costume is number 2. And then add the floor of frame mod 2. The mod 2 keeps us within Goomba's 2 frames of animation, and the floor rounds down to the whole number. Run the project and we can confirm that it's looking good. Yep, Goomba is doing the Goomba shuffle. Excellent. But you know, one better than the Goomba shuffle is the Goomba squish. Yep, it's time to get Mario some exercise and jump on a few heads. Switch to the Mario sprite and find the When I Receive Move player script. Before we move Mario, right at the start of a game frame, we want to check whether Mario is primed to squish enemies. In general, this is when we are moving downwards. Add in an if-else block, and check if falling is greater than 2. That occurs as soon as we leave the ground. And also, then check that speed y is less than -1. This is triggering on downward movements only. Make a new variable named bopy for this sprite only. And set bopy to y. Otherwise, if we are not falling down, set bopy to the empty value. A quick test shows how bopy is set only when we are travelling downwards now. So why do we set this at the start of the game frame before Mario moves? The reason is that after Mario falls down, it's possible that we will actually impact the ground before we check for collisions with Goomba. We really don't want that. So, with that set up, switch back into the enemy sprite and scroll to the bottom of the Define Tick Goomba script. Now we check if Goomba is touching Mario. We must then decide if it is Mario or Goomba who is to lose a life. Add in an if-else, and check if bopy of Mario is greater than the empty value. This represents a Mario win, so Goomba should be squished. Start by pointing in direction 90. Set frame to 0, and I'll set type to squish. All squished enemies will be identified as such. Now set the costume variable to the words Goomba Squish. We can look up this costume name in the costumes list and just copy it from there to make sure it's exactly right. Okay, we are not going to handle Mario losing a life in this episode, so let's just leave the else empty for now. We'll test the scripts as they are. Drop a Goomba. And jump. Squish. Excellent. And now a few more to squish. Squish, squish, squish. Working great. I'm leaving rather a trail of destruction behind me. These Goomba remains should not be left to linger this long. Move over to the when I receive move enemy script, and if type equals squish, then we change frame by 1. And then, once frame is greater than 10, then delete this clone. We can test this, and when we dispatch a Goomba, he now only hangs around for a very short period of time before leaving this world for a better place. To finish off this episode, we should get Mario to bounce off Goomba's head. That gives the player a nice feedback that we've pulled off a successful move. Back in the define tick Goomba script, we can create a new variable named bounce player for all sprites. And when we squish Goomba, we also set bounce player to 5. We're going to use this to automatically simulate the player jumping for 5 frames after hitting the Goomba. Now click into the Mario sprite, and under the when I receive move player after enemy, we insert an if before the move camera block. Check if player bounce is greater than 0. If it is, then we change bounce by -1. And then trigger a jump by firstly setting speed Y to 13. Also, we set falling to 2 so that we're counted as off the ground. And then lastly set jumping to 1. Keeping the jumping variable low will allow us to continue jumping up higher if we hold the jump key down after bouncing on Goomba's head. Right, that's it. We're ready to test. Run the project, drop a Goomba, and jump on his head. Yep, did you see us bounce? Cool. How about jumping high off a Goomba? Woohoo! That was higher. Hold on, let me find somewhere I can test this extra height. Yeah, this platform is too high for a standard jump. But now if I spawn a Goomba, and then jumping on his head now brings the platform into reach. That's great, it opens up exciting level design, especially for reaching secret passages. Well, things are looking great. We've managed to spawn many simple enemies in our game, but we still have some work ahead of us. In the next exciting episode, we will work on bringing the enemies into the level editor, and hopefully how to also add them to our save codes. We also really need to balance things out for poor Goomba and allow Mario to lose a life too. So please do keep me updated with how your projects are coming along and what features you are most looking forward to covering in future episodes. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, then please smash the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to avoid missing my next exciting video. Thank you for watching, and scratch on guys!